I'm here with a client of mine, Tom Gray, and when I first started with Manor Vail Lodge a little over a year ago, I heard a story about his organization, YMDA, and his events that he brings to Manor Vail Lodge, and it's a really unique story, and really just wanted to share it with everybody. And I certainly have questions about it as well, as it's just a kind of a unique experience. So without further ado, here is Tom Gray.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for having me, Patrick. It's been a wonderful and long relationship with Manor Vail, but just a little history from my perspective. I have been in the business for 50 plus years, and not only in the travel business, but I've always had an interest in skiing, and we have a company called Ski Adventures by Tom Gray. It's related mostly to groups, and we cover mostly all the Western areas, European areas, and a lot of helicopter skiing. But Manor Vail and I have had a relationship for some 50 plus years. And one group that we're talking about at this particular point in time is called the YMDA. In fact, we're coming to Manor Vail this year for their 57th year that the organization has been in existence. I had the opportunity to take over the YMDA group some 50 years ago, and it was started by 7 men out of the Minneapolis-St. Paul area that had an interest in skiing. And so they were in the neighborhood of about 25 to 30 people. And it has been a stag group. And it has continued to remain that way, except for some certain situations that happen to take place along the road. But anyways, through this particular situation with YMDA, we started out, as I say, the 25 to 30 people group, and it continued to grow. Now, keep in mind that during those years of the 40 to 50 years earlier, skiing was an incredibly popular sport. Every high school, every college, every ski club had a Western group trip, or it was very, very popular. It was kind of like pickleball is today. It was almost overwhelming. So when I was a young man at that particular point in time, I was running around to all these ski meetings and doing all these kinds of things and selling the trip and bringing Warren Miller into the Minneapolis-St. Paul area for his ski shows. And during that period of time, some people came to me and asked me if I'd like to take this thing over. So to make a long story short, I did that, and we grew at one point in time to taking 130 to 150 people using charters and those particular things. And do you want me to expand on how I find Manor Vail at this point?
I mean, I think that's pretty unique because with the history of 57 years, I mean, I think, how because you could have ended up anywhere in Vail, and you could have certainly, gone anywhere else in those 57 years. Yeah, how did that come to be?
Well, what really happened, Patrick, is that I was bringing this group to Vail, and certainly other areas as well, by the way. In fact, we were running charters in the Grand Junction for potentially Aspens and Winter Parks, et cetera, et cetera. But eventually, we ended up in Vail basically because it was so accessible for those of us out of Minneapolis. We were flying directly in there either on a charter or using the airlines. I tend to use Southwest Airlines 90% of my time because it has 2 free bags, and it's a very accessible and very reasonable operation to work with. And so we decided on Vail, and eventually I used another property in Lions Head. And you had an owner there, his name was Walter Bush many years ago. And a good friend of mine out of the Minneapolis area, and he suggested, well, maybe I should take a look at Manor Vail. Well, I did, and I was immediately impressed because I think Manor Vail is so unique in this industry. I'm really a creature of habit of what properties I use time and time again for the groups I do. And not only does Manor have incredibly large units, which by that I mean square footage wise, but they're very accessible. It's very easy to bring groups there. In other words, most units will have, a queen or king, 2 twins, and then certainly in the 3rd bedroom area, if you want to use it, which is living room. I'm talking about 2-bedroom units, by the way. Many of them will have a full bath, which is really pretty neat because then you can put 4 people maybe in one of those units, 4 or 5. And being this is a stag troop, men are always looking for individual beds, to be very honest with you. So from that point of view, it was very, very impressive. And I think once I started with Manor Vail, there was no turning back. I worked with a gal named Teresa Zeller many, many years ago. And when we were bringing 130, 150 people, we would not only use Manor Vail, we would use a property next door to the Children's Center in Vail to accommodate all of these people. In those days, you did not serve a full breakfast. But as we got into the situation, not only is Manor Vail a special property in regards to lodging and of course, people that work there, but when you brought the breakfast in, and I mean a full service breakfast for those who are interested, this is just not an ordinary go out and get what you get, eggs and bacon type thing. This is a full service, and it's a wonderful. And by the way, I think really what happens is most people compliment me and or Manor Vail on that particular breakfast situation that you guys offer. Not only is a way to get together, but it starts the day off on a very good foot for everyone, whether you're up at 7 a.m. in the morning or whether you're up at 9:30. So it's really fun from that point of view because it really takes a lot of pressure off of people is what am I going to do for breakfast? They're going to have to cook, et cetera, et cetera. So that I think is very special. In addition to that, the upgrades at Manor Vail over the years have really been great. The new pool, for example, is really, really nice in the central area, and hot tubs in the workout room and so on. And the Fitz bar, I should mention that as well. I think a lot of people tend to hang out in the Fitz. It's really very nice with, special kind of meals or snacks or whatever you want to call it. Plus, it's a great gathering spot for people to get together. So in keeping a group together, it's really special from that point of view. And of course, the help that's been there. And over the years, I mean, Tammy still remains and Lori at the front desk. And those are longtime people. I mean, Patrick, when I started this thing, keeping in mind that when we were up in the hundreds, we were probably now in the 60s or 70s. We were also doing lift tickets. So when I would send in the rooming list, we would color code the lift ticket or the rooming list with the different types of lift tickets that people would use, which was a 3-day or 5-day lift ticket. So it was a lot more complicated to check in. And your people, always were so easy to work with. When we got there, all the packets were done, and the room captain, excuse me, would just sign to make sure that everything was done properly. And it was really very easy for me. I mean, we bring people in by bus once we get off. The people get in line. The room captain, excuse me, gets in line and collects the keys and et cetera. So it goes very quickly because these people, we come in early in the morning. So these people are very anxious to get skiing. And that's why I continue to use Manor Vail. I mean, I would not use any other place, nor would I recommend any other place. And because of that, I've had other groups. So that kind of covered Manor Vail, and we can get on to a few other questions here. I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling.
No, it's great. I appreciate the insight and just it's your experiences over the years, and so definitely no rambling. Just it's great feedback and love hearing it. So thank you. Can you share? Like I know you certainly had some challenging years in that time, and even some memorable, certainly obviously memorable experiences, which is why you're coming back. Any that stand out for you?
Well, I think there's a couple that do. It involved Manor Vail because we were booked there, but because of my relationship and the management of your company working together for so many years. I remember one in particular, or a couple of in particular. One in particular, I think, was when we had a charter. We were flying into Grand Junction and we came to Manor Vail. We were booked into Manor Vail, and it happened to be years before they had done extensive snowmaking on the mountain. And of course, that changed the industry entirely once snowmaking came in because it was much more predictable. But one of the years, within a week of not coming to Vail because there was really no snow, all it was 3 or 4 runs with man-made snow, and it just wasn't going to work for 150 skiers.
Right.
So we had a charter. We flew into Grand Junction on the charter rather than Denver. And we were flying into Grand Junction rather than Denver, excuse me. So once we found out that we were going to have snow problems, I got to get a drink of water.
Certainly. Take time.
Once I found out we were going to have problems, we changed our destination up to Whistler. So in a period of a week, we took 150 up to Whistler, and that including getting all the paperwork done for the charter, going into Calgary, and then busing up and staying in there. So that was quite a unique experience and something that I'll always cherish in a sense, because it was interesting how you can, even though you seem to know everything until you kind of get into moving people up to a foreign, Canada, which is no foreign country, but still a lot of permits were required. it was really quite fun for me. There were a couple of other instances where we had to move from there to from Vail to Winter Park, but overall we've been pretty consistent with Vail. They've done an unbelievable job of snowmaking. It's an unbelievable mountain. Um, so I think those have been some of the unique experiences, to be very honest with you. I think the other thing over the years that's been a lot of fun at Manor Vail, we haven't done it for a number of years. We always have a get acquainted party, which you people do a wonderful job for us on. But over the years, Patrick, we used to have a banquet for 130 to 150 or 50 people, and we'd bring in anything from people who played the squeeze box to guitar players to wonderful speakers. Lindsey Vaughn was a speaker, but the president of the Vail Ski Corporation is a speaker. We haven't had that opportunity over the last few years, but primarily due to dollars. Now, true, people have to eat someplace, but that we've chosen to do the get acquainted party, and we may go back to the banquet at some point in time, but with our numbers not where they used to be, that's kind of changed. And I kind of don't, even though I run the trip, there's a board that kind of makes kind of the decisions on what we do. So that's kind of what happened there. So, but it's been,
I didn't know you had like almost like a little bit of a speaker series with it before. That's neat. I knew you had the banquet piece, but I didn't know you had that portion. So yeah, would love to talk about that. I know there's certainly some organizations in town that could help you with bringing in speakers if you wanted
that
to.
would be a lot of fun, because I think we are very new, and I had a great relationship with Vail Ski Corporation many, many years ago. Nowadays, that's all changed. They're all in-house. It's all emails or Zoom or whatever it may be. There's very little personal contact, which is rather disturbing to me, because there was a camaraderie involved in this industry with all of the wholesalers. And we would get together at ski tops, and I was one of the original people that sat in a hotel room. Many, many years ago, there were 5 of us who went to Chicago. We formed an organization called Ski Tops, which I don't think it competes, but it's also complementary to the Travel Symposium. And it was much shorter. It was like 2 or 3 days. So that was something that was a highlight, that we all got together and we all shared, thoughts and options, and, talked with each other. That doesn't happen in the industry much anymore, which I really miss. And I can get into that later about, what's happened with the Icon Pass and those kinds of things. So those are kind of some of the unique things that we did with moving trips and, working with, and because of the relationship by the way, we have at Manor Vail, which was very special, they allowed us to be able to do that. So that was really special.
Right. That's not easy to pull off a week out. That's crazy.
Right.
That's neat. Well, so let's get back to the fun. I guess more of the experiential skiing. What's your favorite run? What do you like here? What are your favorite
Well,
areas?
I've skied Vail, needless to say, for probably 60 years, to be very honest with you. And unfortunately, as I continue to grow older here, so many people I grew up with skiing don't ski anymore. So it's not quite as enjoyable as it used to be. But anyways, I certainly think what Vail has in regards to the back bowls is really, really unique. There's really not another area in the country that I can think of, maybe Whistler in Canada, but the bowls, when you get up there and when you get into the bowls, particularly the time of year that we come, which is not a busy time, and if they happen to be open, the skiing is so much fun because it's not crowded at all, particularly in the bowls. And if you love to go back in there and cruise around or ski nice soft bumps, I think it's really special. And so a lot of the people, and believe me, many of the people on this trip are well over 60 years old at this point in time. And so I think that's what's special. I mean, the last few years, for example, with the snow conditions, have been very, very special. It's not always the case, but the last, I think, 2 or 3 years, it's really been really special for the groups to go there. And, that's why people keep coming back, because when we do the trip, including Manor Vail, they show up and it's all there. The air is there. The tickets are all done for them. We get them on the bus. We serve some snacks on the bus. We're bringing to Manor Vail, and they're done checking in half hour to 45 minutes. They can go skiing. Plus the day of departure, they can go skiing. So that's the really exciting thing for me about Manor Vail. It makes my life so much easier.
Wonderful. Thanks for that feedback. What client expectations over the years? I know you said most of the, your sort of core clientele is in their 60s now. How have their expectations maybe changed over the years? And, Does that change their overall experiences to this valley and the property, or?
Most of the people on this, Patrick, on this trip, we certainly get our share of new people as well, but most of the people are repeat customers, and some have been on the trip for 35 years. And they look forward to the camaraderie and the opportunity to get together. And I think that's the same of many of the groups that I do. The camaraderie and being together and enjoying something that you all love is very special. And that just doesn't happen in every single sport. And they get together for breakfast in the morning at Manor Vail. They'll get together at the Fitz in the evening. They'll go out for meals together. But the opportunity to come to Manor Vail and get together, as I say, in the evenings, or, in particular, as I say, for breakfast, is very unique. There's not another place in the industry, another complex in the industry that does what you guys do. So that's really neat from my point of view.
No, that's great. I like that feedback's neat, because I was just thinking about it. A lot of other properties, right? It's either restaurant format, then you're kind of stuck at a set table, or it's banquet, and then it's, everyone's kind of locked in. This is just a nice flow. Everyone can sit with whoever and mix and mingle, or take it back to their room. It's great. So that's neat. Thanks.
Yeah.
Future of ski clubs. Where do you see this industry going?
Well, I think that's one of the disturbing parts to me that I've seen in this industry, and I mentioned it earlier, is that when I first started out, Patrick, with all the ski clubs throughout the universities, and I pretty much operate out of Milwaukee, Chicago, Minneapolis, Iowa, the Midwest, more or less, that every place, and I at one point in time, because everyone had a ski club, and there were, the movies could be shown, and I go skiing, come on, join us, et cetera, et cetera. It was almost, you'd open up these trips and you'd have a wait list of the first night. It would be a lottery type situation, because skiing at that point in time, some 30, 40 years ago, was for sure the in sport. And I'm not so sure that's the case anymore. So because many of the universities or high schools, or where it may, do not have these ski clubs, nor do they, and so many of the ski shops, Vail's purchased a lot of them, so they don't run their own. And at one point in time, 40 years ago, I was running 18 back-to-back charters into Vail and Twin Falls. Twin Falls to service Sun Valley and Jackson, the rest into Denver, plus about 60 buses for colleges and high schools and everything you can imagine. I can remember standing in the parking lot at the University of Minnesota when we were running 3 buses to Colorado or Salt Lake and loading up this stuff, and it was cold. And these people were loading up, and they'd all get on these buses and go out there and kind of blow their brains out for 4 days, or whatever you want to call it, between skiing and staying in wherever they may stay. And it was special because they'd come back and they were so excited to go on the spring trip. But unfortunately, I just haven't. It just doesn't exist anymore. So
I wonder what that comes down to. Whether it's just too many.
I do too. I'm very concerned.
Too many options with the internet and the world, or I don't know. Maybe just. Anyway, diverse interests, I guess. Well, hey, I just, our staff, as you mentioned, some of the crew here, they've been here 15, 20, 30 years. They do love seeing you come back, and just hearing the story and knowing that you guys are coming back every year, it just and a bright spot on the season every year. And just wanted to touch base and hear all about it. So really appreciate the time and chatting with me today. So thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I wish I was a little more. I don't know exactly how to explain the special relationship we've had there, and the people that you've had employed throughout the years, and I could certainly bring up all kinds of names, have been so wonderful to work with, and it makes my life so easy to work with someone like yourself and even Zach going forward. And hopefully, we're in a position now. I've got another couple of groups, one group coming out with you this year. Called the Vagabond Ski Club out of Milwaukee. Have been coming for many, many years. And I did a lot of groups in there. Agile Helms, which was a group I brought about 100 people. Now, this was probably 10 years ago. And some banking groups and stuff. And that they've always been so complimentary. So to get them to come back was no problem. Let's do it again next year, book us. And but now sometimes you need, some of the groups want to move around, so they're not there year after year. But I think, YMDA is always going to be there for you guys. But again, thank you to you and your staff, and it's been very special. So we'll see you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Tom. We'll talk
All
soon.
right, Patrick. My pleasure. Thanks.